Notre Dame coming off the highest of highs. Now you're in the lowest of lows. I've continued to say they got out-matured by Northern Illinois. That's what it looked like to me. Does an 11-1 Notre Dame get into the playoff with a loss to Northern Illinois? Or does it have to be such an extenuating circumstance of other teams falling apart at the end that you just have to put them up there? Or is Notre Dame pretty much just cooked, even if they go 11-1?
They're in. If they go 11-1, they're in. No one cares. Let me rephrase. A lot of people care. The committee does not care 3 months from now, because there'll be plenty of data points from history where so-and-so lost to an inferior team. But all you need them to be able to say about you is the team they are now is fill in the blank. And in this case, it would be playoff worthy. So I was talking to a buddy about that yesterday. He's a Notre Dame hater, which is fine. It's your constitutional right to be one. And he said, they got to be out, man. You can't let someone in. And he's right. In a 4-team era, that would be true. 12-team era, yeah, 11-1 Notre Dame would they would be in there, because here's the other thing. What we haven't seen is the collateral damage that's coming over the next few months. There are a whole bunch of teams in the top 10 right now that will have extremely dirty resumes coming up. And like Georgia, even for all we know, may be one of them. Bama will be one of them. Texas could lose a game. So when you start getting the live bullets of the season flying and then no resume looks sparkling anymore, and you're left there trying to find out who your 10 seed is on Selection Sunday, if there's an 11-1 Notre Dame, especially if the debate comes down to some 2-loss teams, they'd find their way to wiggle in there.
Yeah, there's some teams that could make the playoff despite their name, and then there's some teams that almost got to play themselves out of the playoff, and they're going to get every advantage possible. And we even heard, I forgot the name of the guy, it's one of the people that sit up in the ivory tower and make these decisions. They're like, what's really going to dictate who makes the playoff? He's like, well, what teams play well. And then at the end, he was like, and ticket sales. And
you're talking about Sauron?
Yeah, Sauron. That's who it was. Never forget, this is a billion-dollar industry. They want big-name brands in there. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Speaking about big-name brands, Josh, Alabama. For the second straight year, South Florida has not just been competitive, but had a chance to win the football game late in the fourth. Then all of a sudden, Alabama reels off 4 straight touchdowns. It kind of looks like a blowout when you just look at the box score. But now Alabama's going to go on the road, play Wisconsin. That's kind of an interesting matchup. I saw they were coming in at number 4 in the week 3 of the JP poll there. How are you feeling right now, 2 games into the Kalen DeBoer era for Alabama?
So shaky, definitely from last week's performance. Now, we see every year some team plays like garbage against, I'm going to say, inferior competition. USF's a decent team. Alex Golesh does a good job. But we see every year there'll be some team that just sleepwalks their way through a game. And then some head coach 2 months down the road says, in retrospect, that was good for us. So who knows? Maybe that's Alabama. If it is Alabama, they'll smoke Wisconsin this week. If, all caps, if. They should be able to run the ball at will against them. Wisconsin should not be able to play light boxed against them. Bama's the best in the country at popping you over the top when someone has to dedicate extra help. So all that stuff should be there. I think Alabama may have faced better athletes last week, candidly, than they'll face this week with Wisconsin.
Agree with that.
I got no clue. I have no clue what Wisconsin's offensive identity is. And that's year 2 that we're saying that. So that's not a good thing. So if Bama's a real national title contender, they will handedly take care of business this week. And if it's a struggle, not the end of the world, but then we start realizing we're seeing those tiers in the top 10 start to form.
Yeah, well, and I do want to throw this in here, Josh, because this is something we talked about in our Wisconsin-Alabama preview. Nobody is doubting the athletes that Alabama has. Alabama still has one of the best rosters in college football. I don't think they have the best, but when you watch them run around, you're like, yeah, that looks like Alabama. But the disorganization and the sloppiness, and you got to give USF all the credit in the world, and I think the team speed from South Florida shocked Alabama a little bit, because a lot of that game, South Florida, they mixed it up. Todd Orlando did a great job with his pressures, but they were playing man behind it. They would sit in man free a lot, put that post-high safety a little bit deeper, almost to where he didn't even have to drop, and they were able to run with these guys and be able to make plays in space. But when you look at this Alabama team is one of those that if they clean it up, can really be a damn good football team. And it's not like they had a lacrosse player at quarterback like they did last year when they went down to play South Florida. So if it is Alabama, like you say, I think they roll Wisconsin. I don't trust Tyler Van Dyke. I trust Dick Van Dyke more than him. But
I do too.
Yeah, you do. You love you some DVD.
Oh, yeah, I do.
What's up, YouTube? Hit that subscribe button. You know what time it is. If you already have, get somebody else to. And then tell them to get somebody else to. That's how we get hands across America.